Welcome to the channel, everyone. Well, working on the 80 Chevy Silverado frame. Surprise, surprise. I got a few more parts painted. These are the backing plates for the front disc brakes. Also, just put a little paint on my axles. I cleaned them off. I figured if I don't throw some paint on them, they're just gonna rust again. So threw some paint on them. I got to get my new rotors on my hubs. I actually got new bearings for those. I've got to work on, what do I got here? I got spindles. I think I got to change out some needle bearings, but anyway, let's get to it, guys. Get this axle put back together. Okay, so I got my spindles here. I got them cleaned up. They're a little rusty. I believe these are the original ones that were on the truck. But anyway, there's a bearing inside here. Wonder why it's not showing up very good. I wonder why. There's light right above me here. Anyway, there's a bearing in there. There's a little better view of it. So I got to replace that. I think a lot of people don't replace that bearing. They either don't know about it or they forget about it. And it's not good because something like that will happen. And it looks like them needle bearings have been destroyed for a while. You can see they're even worn down, so hopefully it didn't hurt the axle any. But anyway, I got to get them out. I see a lot of people going from behind and punching them out. There is a tool for this. I don't have it, but what I do have is I have a pilot bearing puller here. And let me get set up and I'll show you how this thing works. Okay, like I said, I don't have the tool to pull that bearing out, but I do have this pilot bearing tool, puller. And how this works is it's got two little fingers, which is exactly what the tool that pulls the bearing out of that spindle has. And then you turn this, and what that does is it spreads these fingers out. See how these fingers get wider and wider? And then you tighten it up until these fingers grab a hold of the bearing really good. And then you tighten this nut. And what that does is it'll pull the pilot bearing out. Well, I've already tried this and it won't spread these fingers wide enough to be able to grab a hold of that bearing. So I made this little collar that I'm going to slide over this tip here. And that's going to actually push these fingers wide enough to grab a hold of that bearing. I'm hoping it's going to work. I guess we'll see. I'm going to get set up and we'll see if it'll pull it out. Okay, so here's the tool all set up. And like I said, it's very similar to the tool that GM would have to do this. I think it might be a little lighter duty. So I don't know if this is going to work at all. But you can see I got those fingers spread out a lot further with my little spacer thing I stuck in there. So I'm going to get a wrench to go on here. We'll see if this will pull it out. Like I said, I'm not sure if it will, but we'll see, I guess. Okay, so that was a big time fail. The fingers on that tool apparently just weren't strong enough. I had them spread out far enough to grab a hold of the bearing, but it just wouldn't hold, and they wouldn't pull it out. So what I ended up doing is I used well, first of all, I tried to find a punch I mean, we got a drawer full of punches, every size you can think of, and I could not get a punch to fit. You can see how it steps. It steps up, and I could not get a punch to grab a hold of the edge, so I ended up using a like a pry bar, Craftsman pry bar with like a twist on the end, a curl on the end. But I mean, I got it out, but I ended up scarring. See, I ended up scarring the inside. So that was an epic fail there. So instead of trying to, you know, buy the tool or I don't know, wreck the other one, I really don't think this is wrecked. I think if you cleaned those little scars up, you know, made it smooth, you could press a new bearing in there. But instead of just messing with this old stuff, what I did is I got a set of Yukon, set of new spindles. These are brand new bearing inside. And I actually found one of them pretty cheap. The other one wasn't too bad, so I found two at a really decent price. Actually, probably got two of these for less than what Summit Racing wants for one brand new one. So I'm pretty happy. I'm doing so much to the truck. I guess I might as well start out fresh with spindles too. So yeah, that didn't work out very good, but you know, sometimes that happens. Okay, so moving on from that, I got to get these rotors separated from the hubs. I got brand new rotors. These rotors actually don't look that bad. Looks like they weren't run very long, but I'm going to start out fresh. So I got to get these studs out. Now, probably the best way to do this would be to go to a press and do it. These lugs, someone left their wheel loose. These are junk. I've got brand new studs. I actually got longer studs. I'll show you them when I install them. So I'm just going to get these things out of here. Wouldn't feel right if she just popped off. Gotta be a battle. Got the bearing here, but like I said, I got brand new ones. So there's a seal on the back side, and you got your bearing. This looks really cruddy. This is really dirty in here. I gotta go clean all this hub up. Okay, so I got my hub cleaned up, good enough to get the races out. But first thing I do is I clean up the bearings, and I compare the bearings, the old bearings, with the new bearings that I have, just to make sure they are the same number. And I got Spicer bearings, so I've already done that. I've confirmed the numbers are the same, so now I know that I have the right stuff to continue with the job. So I'm going to actually get these races out. Now these races actually, they don't look bad, and I've put new bearings in without doing races, but I've got them and I've got time here to do it, so that's what I'm going to do. So you can see there's a lip on these races there, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my punch against that lip. There's an inner and an outer, so I'm going to knock these out. Once I get these knocked out, I'm going to clean it up again, a little more cleaning, so the new races can go in. I don't know if I got a big enough race driver. There's one race, they come out relatively easy. The harder part is getting them back in. I ain't going to be able to reach. I ain't going to be able to reach it with that one. I'll have to get a longer one. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm going to get it out. Okay, so I got the old race out. I got the brand new race. I've confirmed I've got the right stuff. So I don't have a race driver that big. So what I'm going to attempt to do is, got the old race here. I'm going to put that on there so I don't, hopefully don't wreck anything. I got a piece of actually, I was going to use that pipe, but I could probably just use this on top of there. See how that works, I guess. Now I'm going to have to use the pipe now because I'm all the way down and I'm flush with the deal. So well, now I might have to figure out how to get that out now, but I believe I got it. I might smack it a few more times just to make sure, but that's pretty much it. I'll flip it over. The other one's a little harder to get to. It's kind of deeper in there, but I think you get the idea. Okay, so I was able to get that old race out pretty easily. I just used a little hammer with a round end, and because I have the race upside down, it's kind of cupped, and I just tapped on it. I was able to come out relatively easy. Something you might want to do, or something that I'm probably going to do, is I'm going to sand the outside of this a little bit so it's not such a snug fit, so it comes out easier. For the inside race, again, I used the old race. I'm flipping it upside down so the narrow end is going on top of the new race so I don't damage anything. And I actually have a race driver that fit on the race, the wider side of the race. That's the race is, like I said, I got them upside down. And that worked out really good. The thing with races, you're just trying to drive them in as straight as you can, and then you want them to seat all the way down. Yeah, it's not really that difficult. So I'm ready for the bearings now. I'm gonna clean this up and I'll paint this. That's because I'm doing that with everything, so I might as well do it with this. I'm gonna do the other side, the other hub, the same way I did this. So yeah, almost got everything ready to put that axle back together. Okay, so I just cleaned up the hubs and I'm throwing some paint on them. And then my steering arm, because I sandblasted that. So I just throwing some paint on it. Also got these washers for the steering arm. I'm not putting a ton of paint. I don't need a ton of paint buildup on this stuff because the rotors are pressed onto that. So I'm not sure if these are even painted from the factory. I don't think they are. But anyway, there's not enough here for me to load up my paint gun. So I am using a spray can. You guys know I do not like spray cans. Paint's junk. But I do like this Rust-Oleum. It's got to be the hard hat or the professional. Any of the other stuff is junk, guys. Don't even waste your time. You go to your Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, and you get that cheap Rust-Oleum for, I don't know, $5 a can or four or whatever it is. It's cheap. That's because it's junk. You got to get the hard hat or the professional, or don't waste your time. Just don't paint it at all because you're just wasting your time. But yeah, it's hard to see on this side because all the lights are on that side, but they're painted. Okay, so I got my steering arm back onto the knuckle, and here's a good look at why I couldn't put an axle truss across here, because you can see the steering arm runs right in here. So that's why I couldn't continue on putting an axle truss on this side. I know there was one guy wondering why I didn't finish that up. Well, that's the reason. So now finally, I've been waiting on this tool here for a while. I've really been stopped because I was waiting on this. This tool here is gonna torque the adjusting sleeve nut on this upper ball joint. It's actually underneath this castle nut. You got to torque the lower ball joint, then you got to torque the adjusting sleeve under this castle nut, then you torque the upper ball joint. So you got to do it in that sequence. So finally, now that I got my tool, I can finally do that. Probably gonna throw some grease on this lower ball joint because it's got a lock nut, and just in case it spins on me, I want some grease in there. But other than that, just gonna torque these just like I said. Okay, so getting ready to torque these. What I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna tighten up this upper ball joint. I'm just gonna tighten this up. And hopefully what that's going to do is it's going to force this lower ball joint up into its spot, which I hope will keep it from spinning on me. Because this is like a lock nut on this lower one here. So I don't want it to spin my ball joint. So that worked really well. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to back. These are all different size nuts. I'm going to actually back this one off because I don't want that one tight before my other one. Now I'm going to torque this 80 foot-pounds. Excuse me, 80 foot-pounds is what they say for the lower ball joint. .2 foot-pounds, which sounds good. So now I'm going to remove my castle nut from my upper ball joint, and I got that special socket to go down into this adjusting sleeve. I don't know what size that is. I think they said 1 inch. I'll be right back. Okay, so 50 foot-pounds for this adjusting sleeve nut. It is a 1 inch socket that fits on there. So we're gonna tighten it up. We're spinning the Okay, so now it's time for the upper ball joint. And this guy is 100 foot-pounds. .7, that'll do it. So that should be, so anyway, this side's done. Oh, my cotter pin. Actually, it looks like my cotter pin is right on, but if your cotter pin isn't right on, you never loosen this nut. You want to just torque it down a little more until you can get your cotter pin in the hole. So never loosen this up. Just tighten it up a little bit more to get your cotter pin to fit in. And I'm going to the other side. Okay, so I got everything torqued down both sides. I actually greased top and bottom ball joint before I tightened everything. Again, like I said, if I was worried about spinning that bottom ball joint, I didn't, but I was worried about spinning it. So I wanted some grease in that ball joint. And another thing about this grease fitting here, probably wasn't a good idea to go back here. Seems like there's more room in the front. The problem is my grease fitting is having a hard time getting pushed on that. Probably just have to use a needle greaser to grease these, which isn't bad, but the other way is a lot better. But I think there's more room on the front side. But anyway, it's done. I'll be able to grease it. One thing that I do see out there that people don't seem to understand is they think that when you're torquing these ball joint nuts, they seem to think that you're putting like pressure on the actual ball of the joint. And that is not true. I know it gets stiff. You know, this is kind of harder to turn, but you're not tightening up the ball on the joint. Here's an old ball joint right here, and you can see it's tapered. See how that's tapered? When you're torquing it, all you're doing is pushing that taper up into the tapered hole and making it super tight so it don't spin. That's all you're doing. You're not putting any preload on the ball joint itself. So I see a lot of people think that's what they're doing. You're not doing that. But it is a little stiff. I've actually seen people loosen these up because they think this is too tight. This will, you know, wear. It will wear into turning better. And like I said, giving them some grease will help get them moving. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Now, finally, I can get my axles slid in here, and we can keep on moving. Okay, so I got my axle. And this is going to be the fun side. The more I look at these axles, the more I think I probably should have just got new ones, but I put a little bit of lube on the side where the seal goes through the seal. Better get my deal out of here. I was plugging the hole so stuff didn't go down in there. But this is going to be the fun one. Well, I got her in there, scratching the crap out of all my paint, but it is what it is. It'll be used. Okay, got my axle slid in here. Now there's a couple seals that have to go on here before you can put your spindle on. This is your first seal that's going to go on. See, it's got a square end. The square end goes to the on the axle there. And this one is fairly tight. And I'm scratching my axle more and more. So that goes back there like that. Then you've got this right here, which is nylon or something, I don't know what it is. But it's got a taper on it, on one side. That taper goes... There's a taper on your axle. So the taper goes to the inside. So that goes up against the axle like that. Then you've got this seal right here. And you can see it's got like a V groove in it. So you want that V groove going to the inside. So that's going to go on there like so. So once all that's on there, you're actually ready. You're ready for your spindle. Okay, so next the spindle goes on, and you saw the brand new ones that I picked up. Really nothing special here. Make sure you got clean surfaces. Mine's all oily because it's brand new, but slide your spindle on there. Kind of got to hold up the axle here to get it to slide in there. Okay, so I almost forgot about my brake dust shield / caliper mount. That goes on after you got your spindle on. And I'm not sure if there's a left and a right on these, but remember your brake caliper goes kind of to the back on the top side. Then I'm going to put my bolts on, and they say 25, the book says 25 foot-pounds on these little bolts here. It doesn't seem like a whole lot, but they are kind of small, and they do have like a locking knurl on the back side. So I'm going to get these torqued. I'm going to do the other side, get it all assembled, and we'll move on. Okay, so here are the rotors I'm using. They're just standard rotors. They're not drilled or slotted or not, and they're Raybestos. I'll show a picture of the part number at the end of the video, guys. But yeah, I've got my new rotors. Hubs are ready for the rotors. So I just got to show you the longer studs that I'm going to use to put these together. Okay, so the rotors go on the back of the hubs like that, and then the studs are actually pressed in here, and that's what sandwiches the rotor. That's what keeps it on the hub. Okay, so here's the new stud that I'm going to be using. It's a Dorman. It's a 1/4 inch longer than the original stud that was in it. I think these are Dodge, for a Dodge pickup. You can see the body is longer. They're not listed as fitting the Chevy truck, and they really won't fit unless you are using like a thicker wheel, because you got to watch out your wheel. I don't know if a steel wheel will fit on these studs or not, because it, like I said, it's going to stick out past the hub a little bit. So the reason I'm using these is because I have aluminum wheels that are thicker. I possibly may need spacers. But anyway, these are pressed in. Okay, so I got 6 of these laid in my hub rotor setup. And I'm actually just going to pound these in a little ways, and then we're going to go over to the press and push them in the rest of the way. Okay, so we're over the press, ready to press these in. You're probably not going to see much from this angle. I'll try to get another angle. I got to watch out where I got my plate sitting, because the stud is bigger as it pushes out of the hub, and I don't want to get that caught. Okay, so there you can see it's one piece now, and I'm going to try to get you a look at, you can see the thicker part sticks up out of the hub now. Now, like I said, that's not going to affect me. I actually want that little longer stud for either the aluminum wheel that I'm going with, or possibly spacers. So hubs, rotors ready for the truck, guys. I get my bearings ready now. Okay guys, so I'm getting my wheel bearings ready. Actually putting a little bit of grease inside my hubs here. Because I completely cleaned this up. So put a little bit of grease in there. Got my wheel bearing. I'm getting ready to pack this thing. And I just put some in my hand here, and I'm taking the bearing and I'm pushing the grease up into the cage. And I'm going to continue to do that. All the way around. Well, I got such a mess here. Ideally, you want to see the grease coming up through the top of the bearing. But I've got such a mess here going on that I believe I got her packed pretty good. So we're gonna get her, we're gonna drop her down in there. And then I'll get the other bearings. I'll get them all greased up the same way. I gotta put my seal in. I'll show you that in a second. But while I'm all messy, I'm gonna get the other bearings took care of. Okay, so I got everything nice and greasy. Got my brand new seal here. Okay, so I'm unable to find anything that'll fit that seal real well. So I'm just going to have to just kind of go around it. Try to pound it in evenly. Which is not happening at the moment. Yeah, that's really how not to do it. But it's in there. Put a little grease on the lip of the seal there so it don't start out dry. Not a lot. You just want that nice and even. Okay, so now comes the fun part. Taking this heavy deal, sliding it on your spindle. Okay, so you gotta play with it. You gotta play with it till that bearing slides, because it's a super tight fit. And you got your bearing that won't come off your paper towel. Your outer bearing. That goes on. Like so. Then you've got your nut. Now remember, this first nut has a little locking tab on it, and that tab's got to be out. Okay, so we're going to preload the bearing, and actually they say to put your wheel on to do this. I'm going to try to do this without the wheel. But they want you to torque this thing to 50 foot-pounds while spinning your wheel. So okay, so then they want you to back it off. "90 degrees. Okay, so then they want 35 foot-pounds. Again, while you're spinning it. Then you want to back it off 3/8 of a turn. So That's not quite half. Three-eighths of a turn. I know I'm getting grease everywhere. But that's how they want you to adjust those bearings. I gotta see how tight this is. I just snugged the nut hand tight. Okay, so next up, you got your lock washer. Remember, it's got a deal right here. Lines up with your spindle, and then you got a hole. It's got to line up with the notch for the tab on your first nut. Okay, so I got that locking washer in there and I lined up the tab. Got my final lock nut here. What's going on? This is such a greasy job, it's ridiculous. And I'm going to torque it to, I believe they say 78 to 80 is 80 foot-pounds. I think 77 is 50 foot-pounds. I have no idea why there's a variation. On the torque. But I'm just telling you what the book is telling me. So this is 80 foot-pounds for this nut. Okay, so finally we get to torque this final nut. Like I said, to 80 foot-pounds. Actually went over on that. But should be it. Should be bearings. Should be preloaded and ready to go. I gotta do the other side now. Okay, so another upgrade I'm doing are these Wilwood calipers. Now these calipers are pretty sweet, guys. You can get these in red, black, and I got the gray here just because my theme of the truck, the little accents have all been gray, so that's what I went with. Plus it kind of looks like a factory caliper. You know, well, before they rust anyway. So that's kind of why I went with the gray. But these are neat, guys, because these are a dual piston. And they've got them made, they got bleeder screws actually top and bottom or each side, whichever way you look at it. So I believe you can use these calipers, the same caliper on each side, which is an ingenious design, I think. All they got to do is make one caliper. These actually come with pads. Forget what kind of pads they are, but they come with pads. And these pads look exactly like the OEM pads that I took off the truck. Comes with new sliders. So they're ready to bolt on, guys. I believe they'll even work with your factory brake line. I haven't gotten that far yet. But these are supposed to be like just replacement calipers that just bolt on. So I'm gonna find out here. I'm a little worried because they say they just bolt on, but you know how that goes. Okay, so I'm gonna load these calipers, and one thing you want to make sure is see the calipers with the holes. These actually go to the outside of the caliper, and this curl fits in this slot right here. So just remember that when you're putting it together. I don't know if you can put them in the wrong spot or not, but that's how they go. Okay, so I got my pads all loaded the right way in the caliper. And like I said, they say this is a bolt-on upgrade. I forget what caliper. It's got a number. I forget what it is, but anyway, you put it on there. Put your slider bolts in place. Make sure your brake pads are staying where they're supposed to be. And just like they said, these things are just bolting into place. So that's pretty awesome, guys. I mean, with these dual piston calipers up front and the disc conversion in the back, I mean, this thing's gonna stop amazing. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now, I don't know if you can run a 15-inch rim on these calipers or not, if you got to upgrade to like a 16. I have bigger wheels that I'm planning on running on this thing, so it's not that big of a deal. But before you run out and get these calipers for your vehicle, just kind of make sure you figure out if they will fit and work with your... They are going to work with what I'm doing on this 80 Chevy Silverado. So one final part for this video, guys. I know it's gotten long, but I had a bunch to do, so I wanted to show you everything. Got a matching differential cover, just like the rear. It's got the fins exposed with like the kind of like a bed liner texture. Lube locker, gasket. These things are awesome. You need no RTV or anything. Just bolt it on and go. The cover came with these little Allen head bolts. They actually look like nice stainless bolts, but I don't know if they're stainless or not, but they look like they are. Anyway, I'm gonna get this on. Okay, so I'm getting my cover on here. You just want to make sure I cleaned off my surface here. Made sure it was good to go. I cleaned the debris in the bottom of the differential there. Sprayed it out with brake clean, and then actually what I do is I go in there with I got some Lucas assembly lube just to get everything lubed up before this thing starts rolling around and getting grease everywhere. I just like to have a little bit of lube. And with this lube locker gasket, all you got to do is bolt it on and tighten down your bolts. Simple as that. This is just a cheap eBay cover that I found. I like the black look. Okay, so I got all the bolts snugged up. Now I'm running around. Gonna torque them. The book says 10 to 20 foot-pounds for cover bolts. Trying to get these washers in the groove. They kind of go in a groove, so I'm trying to get these washers to stay in the groove. Just kind of slowly sneaking up on this. I usually go about 15 foot-pounds. You gotta watch out, not so much with these thick aluminum covers, but when you got your thin steel ones, you gotta really watch out you don't over torque them, because you can warp that thin sheet metal and then cause yourself leaks. But you really don't have that problem with these thick aluminum covers. I'm actually using an inch-pound torque wrench, so it's 15 foot-pounds. So there's I believe 180 inch-pounds and 15 foot-pounds. So that's about what I'm doing right now. And I usually go around this a few times because the bolts around each one will loosen up as you go around. You'll feel it when they're all good and tight. Well, there it is, guys. I know we're not totally complete. We're missing steering parts. We're missing the locking hubs. But I'm going to do a separate video on that. This one's getting kind of long. Got a lot done. It looks awesome. I'm loving it. Really excited about getting this thing down on some wheels and tires. So I guess, guys, like I said, that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more stuff on this truck, guys. I'll see you.